is Ela. I'm a digital strategy coach, and today we will be kicking off with an influencer marketing masterclass. My guest in this conversation today is Anshu Singhi. Anshu is an entrepreneur. She is the founder of CHNO Media. She also does a lot of talent management related work. She works with a lot of creators, influencers, musicians, actors, and a lot of celebrities. She's worked a lot with influencers in the social media marketing space. Today, I will be speaking to her about what is it that brands need to keep in mind when they are thinking of doing influencer marketing specifically. Whether they collaborate with bigger influencers or smaller influencers, what kind of niche do they work in? What is it that what are the red flags that they need to keep in mind when they partner with influencers or they collaborate with influencers? So stay tuned for this really interesting chat with Anshu, and feel free to drop in any questions in the comment section below, and we would love to answer them for you. Hey, hi Anshu.
Hey, hi Ela, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you? Can you hear me loud and clear?
Very loud, very clear, all good.
Okay, great. Because I keep getting this message in between that your connection is poor, so I was a little scared. So thank you
That's
so
fine.
much for joining in. It's great to have you on a Saturday evening and taking time out for this. So
My
everybody
pleasure.
else who's joining us, and I just wanted to quickly introduce Anshu and how we got connected. So I've been following Anshu for a while now because she's been creating some really interesting content around what influencers should do, or she also recently started a podcast which is called Questions That I Wanted to Ask. She's done a couple of really interesting, great shows recently. But otherwise, she's an entrepreneur, and she started a company called CHNO Media, and works a lot with celebrities, musicians, influencers. Has great experience, I think, over 15 years now in the talent management space.
Yeah, overall
So,
in the entertainment space.
yeah. So I think I'm really glad that you joined us, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation and the kind of insights that will come out of it. And
Thank you so much.
like we were discussing, I thought we'll talk more about influencer marketing. Because a lot of our followers are small Indian homegrown brands, so as they're called these days, and they work quite a bit with influencers, and influencers in various categories, whether they're purely Instagram influencers, or they could even be celebrities or musicians for that matter. So before we really get into more specific details, I just wanted to understand, according to the kind of different influencers and celebrities that you've worked with, uh, what are the different kind of influencers? Is someone who just has 10,000 followers an influencer, or do they, there's a celebrity who has got like 2 million or other millions of followers? Is that an influencer? Why is it such a buzzword these days? And is it because we don't really have influencers in real life, that everybody's running to social media to look for inspiration and motivation? So what are your views on that?
So, I mean, influencer, a lot of people actually have started calling them creators more than influencers. But, in real sense, the word influence actually comes from the fact that if you have a set of fans or audience who's ready to, put money onto you, or buy some product from you, you have influence. Now, it doesn't matter whether those are like hundreds of them, or thousands of them, or, sometimes millions of them. I think, Ila, your screen is
Oh, okay.
twisted.
Okay. Now is it better?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. So it doesn't matter, and I really hate this categorization, because honestly, influence is not dependent on the number of people, you can get. Yes, of course, there are mega influencers, if that's what, which are basically film celebrities or sports people and athletes, etc., right, across the world and in India. So Deepika Padukone is like a mega influencer, or a you know or any of these athletes. Serena Williams is a mega influencer. Having said that, I mean, they have a wide set of audience. But because there are a lot of brands here, and homegrown brands, so I'm going to speak a lot of it, keeping that in mind. Uh, Anybody who can, if you have a certain set of number of followers, and anybody whom you can influence a decision to buy your product or services, becomes your power to influence, and hence you're as a catch. There are mega influencers, people who are, above and beyond a million and all. Then there are macro influencers, people who are, in the category of a lakh to like a million kinds. There are micro influencers, people who are between 10,000 to 1 lakh. I mean, these are just generic categorization. There's no, this thing. And then there are nano influencers. Having said that, all of them have different roles and functions, and all of them have the power or ability to exercise influence over the audience, to be able to, say something, make a point, sell up, or, bring some sort of a, action from the audience that's following you.
So how does one identify, what is the right influencer for them, so to say, because, everybody has limited budget, and, I'm sure there is, a certain, of course, quite a bit of money involved, depending on, what kind of campaign a brand is looking for. So where does one get started, right? Like, should they look for someone who has a huge following so that it brings in more numbers, or is micro influencer is the new space, or like you said, nano influencer the new space to be in? Which is, where does
So
one
if you're
start?
a homegrown brand, if you're a homegrown brand, and if you're a smaller brand who's just starting out, okay. Ila, are you there? I think you're stuck. Okay, are you there?
Yeah, I can hear you well. I think you got stuck in the middle, but I
Okay.
can hear you now.
Okay. So if you are a smaller brand or a homegrown brand, it's obvious that you won't have the budgets to begin with to, go with a bigger, very, very big celebrity, and you shouldn't go also. You can always begin with, if you're a small startup, I would say you can always begin with a micro or a nano influencer, where their reach and their influence is so strong that it starts affecting the people close by. Anyways, they say that the first round of marketing is always the word of mouth marketing, of course, right? So the micro and the nano ones should be the first choice, for you to pick up if you're a homegrown and a smaller brand. So that also it's more targeted, right? When you are, so for example, you have a fashion label, which is, products from, so for winter wear, right? Now you would know that a certain kind of audience will wear it, certain, depending on, the level of, the kind of product you have, how better it's price, how it is priced, etc., right? You would know that a certain part of the, my audience would be able to afford it, not afford it, this is the age, this is the demographic, etc. Keeping that in mind, you can choose the kind of influencer you want. So if you are a jewelry which is like a chunky silver jewelry brand, it's obvious that a lot of young girls, college going girls, and if your brand is, priced in the affordable range, that audience will be in the, college going, that this thing, which means you need to go and choose. So it's okay if you choose a local, uh, you choose a local face which represents a college or that particular city or a community. That person could be, you know, a nano or a micro influencer, and it's okay for you to do that. Also, it'll be affordable to you. But if you are a slightly bigger brand which is targeting things at the national level, or slightly order, you can go at the macro, or the micro influencer, this thing, depending on the category of the brand. It all depends on who's your audience, what are your budgets, and who are you targeting,
Yeah.
and
So
how
I
fast you
had
want to scale and grow.
Yeah. So, for example, if, I wanted, even if I'm a smaller brand, for example, but I wanted to, hypothetically say reach out to, Dolly Singh, for example, should I, ask someone who's got like 1 million followers to do just one story for me? Or the other trade-off is if I were to reach out to a smaller influencer who's got just say 50,000 or 100,000 followers on Instagram and then do a larger campaign for me. So without spending money, is there a way that I can sort of forecast that ROI and see, which would be a better person for me to reach out to? Is there a way to sort of figure that out?
So, see, honestly, there are no right answers for things like these, but in my experience, I would say always choose influencers or faces who have higher engagement. But engagement is also just a term, right? Ultimately, who has a better brand connect? So whether it's Dolly and she's great and she's amazing, or whether it's someone smaller, right? It really depends on one, for example, whether Dolly would do that story for free, for example, right? Or somebody else would do. Because understand, for someone like a Dolly, also she would be getting those requests, 20 requests in a day, and she cannot, physically accept, or it's impossible for any influencer today to accept free requests, barters, etc. So it's advisable to first go and make sure that your immediate line of circles, immediate line of influencers who are open to barters do that. Ultimately, if your target is to reach, make sure the brand is seen visible enough, is visible enough around your immediate circle or the next circle after that, before you even go to the bigger one, right? And ultimately it all depends on the product. If your product is really great, somebody will notice it and somebody would want to wear it. If for example, if you are a jewelry brand, somebody would want to wear it, and slowly then, but the product also has to be good enough.
Yeah, yeah. So actually identifying the right influencer is, one part of the story. The other is what is the right channel through which, that influencer should do that campaign for you. Would that be Instagram, or would that be Facebook, or would that be asking them to do a YouTube tutorial for your brand on, how to apply makeup? I'm sure, a lot of influencers get asked those kind of requests. So how does one identify, what is the right channel also to,
again
partner with?
again a very generic, and it's like, finding what's the marketing plan. However, I'll try and keep it simple. It again depends, all the platforms today, whether it's in Instagram or a Twitter or a YouTube or LinkedIn, today offer a set of a kind of audience, right? And that audience comes out on that particular platform to get something. If I'm going on YouTube, for example, I can talk of me. If I'm going on YouTube, I know I'm going for longer format of content, right? If I'm coming on Instagram, it's just quickly to scroll through what's happening, this thing. Now, if you're a brand who's, say, targeting more women, of course, it's advisable either it's Instagram or, Facebook, right? If you're a brand which is slightly more male targeted, a Twitter could be a great platform. If you're a brand which is, targeting professionals, maybe LinkedIn could be a great this thing, if LinkedIn allows, whatever. But for example, so I work with a lot of gamers. Now, gamers are all very active on YouTube lives, wherein they go and watch, game tutorials and lives, etc. Now, if you're a brand who's targeting 16, 17-year-olds, then maybe YouTubers who are gamers could be a great idea. So it really depends on who your audience is and what you're trying to do. Sometimes, you want to give coupon codes, which are a great way. Say you can do that through YouTube. Sometimes because you could just, link, click on the links, etc. Sometimes you want to just, it depends also on what your objective is. Sometimes you just want awareness. In that case, maybe an Instagram could be a great way to do that, right? Today's stories and reels have an amazing reach. So reels become an important kind of tool to kind of create that awareness. So it really depends on what your target is, what the brand is, and what they're trying to achieve.
And what is the best way to approach? Because there are a lot of bigger influencers, the celebrities like the ones you work with. They're able to afford and hire professional staff, which which manages their social media or which manages their branding and their partnerships, etc. And then there's smaller ones, and like you said, for someone like Dolly, if she gets 20 requests, she won't be able to physically be able to, honor them or answer them or take up to them. So, if, for example, I wanted to reach to someone like Dolly, I mean, should I go through and offer a barter, but sort of plead them that, I can't afford, you doing that brand. So should I go through the talent management, or should I keep spamming them on their messages, or
See,
what
again,
is the guidance?
most of the time, advisable is to reach, if you're especially reaching out to the bigger guys, advisable is to reach their management, because, they're the best guys, they're keeping a hang of, and most of their email IDs, etc., are mentioned on their profiles, right? The artist profiles. So you just have to send an email, and if it's a brand that interests you, so if you haven't gotten an answer, right, from the team, etc., it's most likely that they might not be that keen on working with the brand, right? But when you send those emails, or when you're writing those emails, make sure you're specific, make sure you talk about whether you have a certain budget or not, etc. If it's barter, honestly, barters only happen if the influencer would really be interested in the product, because today, if I mean, if you're a smaller brand, and if you're expecting a barter from any of the bigger influencers, understand, even the cost of one post or whatever could go in lakhs, which means that, is that the value that you're offering through your? It's sometimes not fair, because the influencers or the years building that platform, that they're on today. So I would say, only if the product interests you, you can always DM them. Well, most of them are very, very active on their whatever platform they are on, and most of them, love to interact with their audiences, with their fans, with their, with you can write to them, you can DM them, etc. Most of them reply, actually.
So, a related question that I have is that, like you mentioned that, some of them could charge lakhs for a, post. So, what is the range running like these days? Like for someone, say, which has till 20,000 followers, till, or it's not defined anyway. There are no official numbers, and it's to each his own. Is it something like that, or are
No,
there
of course there
benchmarks?
are official numbers. No, of course there are official numbers, but like I said, one, I'm not the right person to give their cost, because I am not officially representing at this point. When I'm speaking to you today, I don't officially represent somebody's quote to be able to give this thing, and it's a very this thing. The official number needs to come in from the artists themselves, and it really depends on what you're expecting. So, I mean, it's very difficult to give you range, but from your micro influencers to the bigger, it can go from thousands to lakhs. I mean, yeah.
It's a wide range, yeah. Because the
Yes,
reason I'm
yes.
asking is because like when we started this conversation, we were talking more about micro influencers, so people who are probably in the 20,000, 50,000 range.
Yeah,
When I say range, I mean the range of followers. So,
yeah.
so how do
But
brands, for example,
but
like Chumba, who work with home decor, influencers, or brands like Wishing Chair, like who are smaller homegrown brands, but there's so
I mean,
many
Chumbak is
decor.
not a homegrown brand anymore. Like, it's not a smaller brand anymore. And I
Yeah,
have great
but
respect
they
for the
work
brand.
with a lot of influencers on
Yeah, yeah, they've all,
Instagram.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, but I would say, so I'm not a huge fan of brands looking at number of influencers. I would say, rather you look at the influence which, these content creators have over their audience. And when I say influence, it could mean engagement, it could mean how impactful that particular person or brand is, right? And there are so many examples. Like, if you see in the content creator community, if you see amongst the comedians, right? There are a lot of them who are in millions, but then there are some really, really good comedians who are really talented and really big names who are, like, first in the lot. They've not even reached millions, but they are amongst the best this thing. So I would never advise a brand to actually only look at followers, or this thing. I would look at influence, engagement. There are so many other metrics that one should look at before you decide an influencer, or zero down on a face and say that, hey, I want to work with. I would say the power of influence, and I know it's a very generic word, but the ability of that particular creator or influencer or whatever you want to call it, to be able to drive your audience to buy a product. And that ability sometimes is not just the number of followers. It's your engagement, it's your conversations, it's also the value of the brand and the overall impact that person makes.